Whatever you're going through, just understand there's a lot of people going through it as well. Now, my previous video, I was talking about 80 hours a week, and it's always mixed feelings when it comes to working that many hours. But like I said, it's all relative. Of course, we don't want to have to work so many hours, but we have to be realistic. Most of us don't have the circumstances to be able to work 30 hours, 20 hours, 40 hours a week and live some lavish lifestyle, or what we all refer to as comfortable. We have to be honest with our upbringing. We have to be honest with our shortcomings. We have to be honest with our opportunities that we either seized the moment or we didn't seize the moment due to fear, anxiety, whatever it is, because these things play a major role. When you don't apply yourself during a state of fear, sometimes you miss out on opportunities. When you listen to other people who give you advice but don't have the results that match their advice, you miss out on opportunities. Some people get offended. However, the results is the priority, because if you convince me or you try to convince me of something but you don't have the results to match, I'm not going to believe you. Now, over time, you grow into this state of mind, because when you're young, you just look up to people that's older than you and their family members, right? However, once you keep moving, you understand that life is just not about listening to your family. We love to regurgitate the same information generation after generation after generation. Pay attention to who's successful. People lie because they don't want to be called out on their bullshit, or they lie because they don't want to admit that they were wrong. However, results is number one. Doesn't matter how you feel. It doesn't matter how grandma feel, grandpa, mom, dad. Results is number one. You can reach the level, you can reach the results, but you have to understand mindset is first and being realistic with yourself is second. You have to live as if you already have an abundance, because everything you need to succeed is right around you. However, everything else to slow you down is also there too. You conquer the morning, you conquer the day. If you can get past what's holding you back in your environment, then you can seize the moment in your environment and utilize everything in your environment to get to where you want to be. However, you have to understand, just because you love people, you love your community, you love your family, you love where you come from, that does not mean you also hate your people. Love your family, love your community where you come from when you start to do things differently. When you go against the grain, 80 hours a week. Oh, you're crazy to do that. And then when you become successful, now people tend to do what? Oh my God, I'm so proud of you. A lot of people are not living in reality. You want to be entrepreneurs. I said this already. You want to have all these companies. You want to be so successful. You want to brag. You want to be egotistical. However, right here in this moment, you can't control that ego and that pride and do the work. Who you work for probably worked 80 hours a week to build the job or the business to be able to hire you to work for them. If you didn't apply to that job, you wouldn't have a job. However, if they thought like you, the people that don't want to work, they wouldn't have the business to be able to hire the people that do want to work. And I always say, each one teach one. Most companies hire people, and the people that they hire, if they have the intelligent mindset, they will learn from the business that they work for and then go off and start their own company. That comes with financial literacy, because when you're making that money, you need to be able to save that money, apply knowledge that you've acquired by working for that company to then go off and build your own business. At least go through the process, the failure. Failure is a part of success, while also maintain a level head to understand you cannot stop. Once you start, you have to keep going. Once you go down that rabbit hole, it's hard to turn around. But if you're going down the rabbit hole of success, it's just an analogy I'm using, you shouldn't want to turn around. But you got to understand, you're going to have to adapt. That comes from moving away from things that's been common in your community, in your immediate circle, your family. You, me, most of us, we're listening to regurgitated information. It's the same thing over and over and over again from people who haven't succeeded or wanted to succeed but didn't. And instead of admitting that they didn't know, or their ego got in the way, they then cope and say, it's not worth it, or don't do it. Some of them, they're even jealous and envious. So they try to talk you out of it, because how dare you go and achieve or attempt to achieve what I couldn't achieve, but I know deep down I want to. This is how people operate. We say the world is competitive. I think the world is more jealous and envious versus competitive, because if you're competitive, you just compete. Some people like to talk down. They call it advantage. It's not an advantage, it's insecurity. Some people like to get you away from what you are so obsessed with, because it reminds them that they lost their obsession and their passion with whatever they wanted to do, and they're in a circumstance they don't want to be in, and they're just going through the motion through life. We love to say everybody can't. It's not that everybody can't, it's everybody will not. Everybody can, but not everybody will. Can everybody be rich? It depends on what you consider rich. But I'll tell you this, everybody don't need to have the same exact amount of money to be rich. If you make $30,000 right now, if you can get to $300,000, just consider yourself rich. You're 10 times better than you was. But you know what people who do that do? They go from 30 to 300,000, and I know you're always going to want more. However, it's the mindset of not comparing yourself. The moment you get to 300,000, you start to remind yourself of somebody out there with 3 million. Now pay attention to this. The person that has 3 million, they're reminding themselves that somebody out there with 30 million. This is where it becomes everybody can't. Stop watching everybody. Stop comparing yourself to everybody. But most importantly, stop listening to the same regurgitated information that everybody's passing down. Everything you need is right around you. You just don't see it. People leave clues. You drop an opportunity. You walking past opportunities. But because you're always going back to the same regurgitated information that families pass down for generations from people who have not succeeded but wanted to, you're going down the same path, doing the same thing everybody else is doing, but expecting different results. If I'm not wrong, they call that insanity. So 80 hours a week for y'all that's working 80 hours a week, continue, but plan it. Eat healthy, drink water, sleep. You have to, because you're not going to be able to do it forever. But then you want to move away from that by utilizing the funds, the resources, to then put it in certain things. A lot of people are going to tell you investing won't make you rich because you need a lot of money. However, it's about having money in general, not just being rich. Because if you don't do it, you won't have anything when you're 60, 70, 80 years old and you can't work, which is why some people preach when you're young, work hard. It doesn't matter if you want to be a doctor, lawyer, engineer, scientist, whatever it is, you got to go hard when you're young, because once you turn 40, 50, 60, 70, I won't even say 40, specifically mid 50s, late 50s, early 60s on up to 70s, 80s, you cannot output what you used to when you were younger. That work ethic, you can have the mindset, but your body will say no. You wouldn't even want to do it because it would be extremely uncomfortable. But when you're 20, when you're 30, you could pretty much, like I always use, people get drunk, wake up and go to work like nothing happened last night. They only slept 2-3 hours. Yes, it's bad, but the fact that you can do it is because you're young. When you turn 50, 60, 70, you can't even do that. Some people can't even do it in their late 30s, early 40s. But apply that knowledge and understand you only got right now. You only need right now. Everything is in front of you right now. If you're not putting in the work, what's holding you back? You can't say it's people, society, the government. It's you. Just be honest. It's you allowing people to give you information, regurgitated information, advice that don't have results, people that don't want to see you succeed. However, you so in fear of failure. You got to understand failure is a part of success. Keep going, consistency, perseverance, persistency. It doesn't matter where you start, it's where you finish. You understand what I'm saying? A lot of people are going to start below you as far as support, foundation, opportunity, and they're going to pass you because they're not going to let the fear of failure outweigh the chance of success. They know how much success means to them and their families. They're grateful. They have humility. They're not arrogant, egotistical. They're not too prideful to understand that most things we learn is not going to help us today. And they go for it. Now I'm going to bring up an example. There's a lot of stuff going on revolving an ex-MMA fighter and his son. I'm not going to say any names because it's, you guys will know who I'm talking about if you know. However, when you look at that circumstance, it's a lot of men raise their sons how their dad raised them. However, we come from a different time. I talked about this. Also, a lot of men use the environment to determine how the kid will be, when the man, the father, should understand his place to move his child from an environment, or at least mold his child in any environment to understand what that child needs to do and how that child needs to apply himself to go past that environment. Else, it's the same regurgitated process. It's the same regurgitated mindset. This happened to us, so this is just us. You give in, you quit, you don't keep going. That trickles down from generation to generation. And as a man, I'm a father, I'm a husband and a father. I can't allow myself to just give in like that. Now I'm gonna tie it back to 80 hours a week. I can't just work 80 hours a week and then expect that this is the lifestyle forever. But I also can work 80 hours a week and understand that most people in my immediate family, community circle, immediate circle where I come from, the people I love, don't understand anything about investing. So I need to apply the knowledge of investing. I talked about this in the previous video. Move how rich people would move. Stay how you are as we consider ourselves loving and caring poor people. I don't even like the rich and poor analogy. You don't need a gift to be a good person. You don't need someone to promise a reward at the end of your life to be good. You don't need the Santa Claus. You don't need to be promised a gift as a child to behave. You don't need Jesus to let you into the gates of heaven to behave. It's a choice. Now make a choice to acquire knowledge. Although people are programmed to think like that, understand some of us are programmed to think, do the bare minimum, cry, complain, we're victims. You may be a victim. However, history is safe where it's at. You may come from shortcomings. However, you can't go back and change that. If you're born into poverty, it's not your fault. If you die in poverty, it's your fault. Rich or poor, I'm just using analogies. It's the mindset. Why don't you approach life? Attack, attack, attack. Keep going. Whatever someone say you can't do, do it. Because what I've realized, and I think it's a study on this, when people tell you you can't do something, that makes you want to prove them wrong more than if they wouldn't have said anything. However, what's really happening is you're trying to prove yourself right. You're trying to prove to yourself you can. Take that, take the comments, take the people trying to belittle you, take the jealousy, take the envy, take your shortcomings and where you come from and apply that to yourself and say, you know what? I'm going to do this because I can. Everybody can, but not everybody will. But you can. Who's stopping you? It ain't me. It's not the family. It's not the haters. It's you. Why? Because that fear, you're allowing that fear to overtake opportunity. Right now, everybody has an opportunity. Are you taking advantage of it or are you not? You have to answer that question yourself, because no matter if you understand what I'm saying, wholeheartedly, I can't do the work for you. You can't do the work for me. But I'm telling you, as a man, wake up and just go and do shit. It doesn't matter what anybody think. It doesn't just have to be 80 hours a week. It can be anything. Wake up and do it. Don't let nobody tell you what you can and can't do. Don't let nobody tell you you can't get rich from investing. Don't let nobody tell you you can't start an online business. Don't let nobody tell you you can't go find a caring woman to become your wife. Don't let nobody tell you you shouldn't have kids. But understand this, whatever decision you make, you have to deal with the consequences. This is just grown man talk. I don't think belittling men, belittling boys is a part of raising men to be boys. Yes, somewhere in there, tough love. But we got to tone that shit down when it comes to it's always tough love. You don't necessarily have to break somebody down to build them up. What you can do is remove the parts that's holding them back so they can build themselves up by seeing the true potential in themselves. You do that by leading by example first, and then conversations like this. Who's stopping you? Just you. Sometimes you have to hear that over and over again. Nobody's really stopping you. You woke up this morning and did whatever the hell you wanted to do, didn't you? You probably had a process or you had something to do that you prioritized because you're a responsible human being. However, nobody told you you can and can't do. And if somebody did, you accepted that. You could have told them, go to hell. It's all on us. It doesn't matter. 80 hours a week, 40 hours a week. Hell, no hours a week. You got to deal with whatever decision you make, because at the end of the day, it's your life. How are you going to tell somebody else how to live their life and how someone else is going to tell you how to live yours? And it's just a perspective. This is not advice, but think about it. If you wake up and say, I'm going to do it and do it every day, no matter how it feels, no matter where you start, as long as you finish, and you will, who can stop you? The only person is you. You guys let me know in the comment section what you think.